from our folks. So one of the things I want to invite everybody is that, be willing to make your comments. Your insights are very valuable, and it can actually help somebody else to see a perspective that maybe you got that they didn't get. And then if they did the same thing, it might be vice versa. So anyway, uh, Mr. Ramirez, I'm going to start off. I want to talk a little bit about Robert Kiyosaki as the author. He's not a scholar. He's not a PhD in anything. When I first told somebody about his first book, and I want to talk about that before we jump into our book. His first book is called Rich Dad Poor Dad. And let me just block this here and move my screen over to where I'm looking at the camera. But I read the book and I thought it was phenomenal. It was really a business lesson in the form of a story, right? And so you really have to read Rich Dad Poor Dad because it gives you more foundation to what we're going to be doing. In fact, if this was a college level course, Rich Dad Poor Dad would be Cashflow 101, right? It gives you the concept, and in a nutshell, what happened is that Robert Kiyosaki, at the ripe old age of 8, had a best friend. His name was Mike. And Robert Kiyosaki's father was a PhD. He was a scholar, went to Stanford University, then became the superintendent of schools. So he was a very educated guy. And of course, as a father, you're going to give a lot of advice. Then his best friend's father was an 8th grade dropout, but he was an entrepreneur. And so he had a different set of skills and education, and most importantly, perspective. I think Rich Dad Poor Dad is really mostly about perspective. And I will tell you that in my years in real estate, talking to literally thousands of investors out there, uh, you know, I can't count anymore how many times different investors have told me that Rich Dad Poor Dad changed their lives, changed their perspective, and made them more successful. So I can't tell you enough. You got to go read the book, Rich Dad Poor Dad. And I wish the camera did justice, but my book, I realized because I pulled it back out of the box, my book, which by the way is signed by Robert Kiyosaki himself, and it's dated Robert 2001. And there's a cool little story to that, because I went to a seminar where Robert Kiyosaki was the featured speaker, obviously back in 2001, a mere quarter of a century ago. And if you got the VIP ticket to that seminar, you got to have lunch with the speaker. And so there was about 40 of us that got to go have lunch with Robert and his wife, Kim, who was just a doll. And I managed to sit at the same table as Robert Kiyosaki. And so I was able to have a little bit of a conversation with him. We talked a lot about real estate, and because he also believes a lot about real estate. But one of the biggest things that Robert Kiyosaki emphasizes is the difference between an asset and a liability. And here's the thing: most people at the basic level don't understand the difference between an asset and a liability. An asset, according to accounting, is something that you own. But Robert goes on to say it's more than that. An asset is something that pays you. You only want assets that pay you. A liability, you pay it. So you pay for the privilege of using it and everything. And I had no issue. I had absolutely no issue with that conversation. But he goes on to say that your house where you live is a liability. Okay. And so we had a good discussion about that because, as you know, I'm a big fan of home ownership. And believe it or not, by the end of the conversation, he says, you know what, Eric, you're right. It's not an absolute statement. However, you have to if you convert, and that's why I was explaining to him, a lot of times if you convert your house into a tax deduction and learn how to house hack, then the house, even the house that you live in, can pay you. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's a whole other conversation. But there was another thing. My mentor at the time had a radio show. That's how I originally got into radio, was back in 1999. I happened to be driving down the road. Well, actually, it's earlier. So like in 98, I was driving down the road listening to this business radio show, and the man on the radio was saying that the equity, and pay attention to this because this is not obvious, the equity in your house earns zero. Okay. It's the house that's appreciating, right? So to have a lot of equity in your house is the same as having money in the bank at 0%.
Hmm.
Okay. And so, generally speaking, we don't want to leave a lot of money in the bank at 0%. And at that time, I already had started building my real estate portfolio and I had a significant amount of equity. And so I set an appointment to go speak with this gentleman. And after explaining to it, I realized that the idea of building investment properties, and it's very similar to the conversation you may have heard recently about precious metals, that you want to buy an asset. In fact, I'm reading another really good book called Pay Zero Taxes, and it's how the wealthy people don't pay taxes. And that's because they buy assets, then they borrow against the equity of those assets to buy more assets, creating more income. And then you keep doing that. And as your assets grow again, then you take that equity out and buy more assets. And that's how the wealthy grow. And by the way, when you take that money out in the form of borrowing, then you are not that cash that comes in is not taxable.
Hmm.
And so then you take that out, and of course, and you go on, and then there's more layers to that. But all of this conversation started with my tattered and dog-eared book with lots of outlines in it, with Rich Dad Poor Dad. So I just want to recommend that everybody go out if you don't have this book. And by the way, one of my really good friends who's an engineer, super smart guy, I gave him the book. He read it and he goes like, it's written at like the second grade level. And I go,
Hmm.
I think you missed the point, my friend. The point is in the concept. The fact that it's written at a sixth grade level, second grade level, it just means that more people can get it. And I hope that everyone gets it, share it. The other thing I wanted to tell you, and this is just a little fun piece of fact. You see this? These are
Yeah.
all of Robert Kiyosaki's books. Okay.
Wow.
There is a Rich Dad series, okay, and it's Rich Dad Poor Dad. It's and I got a couple of Rich Dad Retire Young Retire Rich, Rich Dad Real Estate Loopholes, uh, Rich Dad Real Estate Riches, Rich Dad The Business of the 21st Century. P.S. This book, and let me just go back to when it was written. I'm going to just look at the copyright really quick. Uh, the Business of the 21st Century. And this is when he, way ahead of the curve, let's see, this one was copyrighted in 2010. Okay.
Wow.
15 years ago. And he was saying that the concept of network marketing is the business of the future. And today, as you know, just about every corporation has an affiliate or networking aspect of marketing. They realize that it's the best and most efficient way to market. But just to give you an idea, that's endorsed by one of the best business minds out there. And then there's Robert Kiyosaki, and he partners with experts in the field, you know. And that's the other big lesson, is that he didn't have, he graduated from college, went into the army, and then basically lived in the basement of someone's house while he started working to build. So his biggest message, and I'm going to read just a little piece in out of Rich Dad. Um, but just to give you an idea and think about the concepts here. Chapter 1, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, the concept. Chapter 2, Lesson 1, the rich don't work for money. Lesson 2, why teach financial literacy? Lesson 3, mind your own business. And he's talking about being a business mind. Lesson 4, history of taxes and the power of corporations. You see, there is this game out there that's stacked, but you can learn the rules and you can win just the same. So he wrote this book also with a CPA, a very well-known author speaker, Diane Lecter. But I'm just going to read a little bit from chapter 1 of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, just to lay the foundation. And here it says, I had two fathers, a rich one and a poor one. One was highly educated and intelligent. He had a PhD and completed 4 years of undergraduate work in less than 2 years. He then went on to Stanford University, the University of Chicago, and Northwestern University to do his advanced studies, all on full financial scholarships. The other father never finished the 8th grade. Both men were successful in their careers, working hard all their lives. Both earned substantial incomes, yet one struggled financially all his life. The other would become one of the richest men in Hawaii. One died leaving tens of millions of dollars to his family, charities, and his church. The other left bills to be paid. Both men were strong, charismatic, and influential. Both men offered me advice, but they did not advise the same things. Both men believed strongly in education, but did not recommend the same course of study. If I had only one dad, I would have had to accept or reject his advice. Having two dads advising me offered me the choice of contrasting points of view, one of a rich man and one of a poor man. Instead of simply accepting or rejecting one or the other, I find myself thinking more, comparing, and then choosing for myself. The problem was the rich man was not yet rich and the poor man not yet poor. Both were just starting out their careers when I was young, and both were struggling with money and families, but they had different points of view about the subject of money. For example, one dad would say the love of money is the root of all evil. The other, the lack of money is the root of all evil. And so, as I said, this book is really all about perspective and some very basic fundamental concepts that you definitely want to read and make it part of your library. I have given Rich Dad Poor Dad to a lot of people as a gift, and I would highly recommend that you pick up that. Now let's get to our book. And by the way, after that conversation that I had with Robert Kiyosaki, and I think he appreciated the concept and the thought. In fact, so much is that he gave me his phone number because he too had a lot of equity in property, and I got the opportunity to refinance one of his first properties. He came later on. He came on my show, on the real estate show, and I'm so sad that I have been looking into the archives. Even the radio station didn't have records going that far back, but I wanted a copy of that recording of our interview, and it's really fun because we discussed that whole concept of pulling the equity out to buy more assets and more assets. And as you see, he went on to develop that even further. So just remember this also, another one of the lessons that I learned, because now we're going to talk about the cash flow quadrants. And when I first read the book, as usual, I don't know, it's human nature. You tend to challenge, is to see or maybe to try to modify. And after doing that, I found out that I really didn't want to modify it, that the book was really good. And I have since used that in my coaching over the years. In fact, I see this book quoted over and over and over again. And just remember this, 80% of businesses that start out fail within their first 5 years, but none of them fail if they have positive cash flow. I've heard people say things as crazy as, I lose money on each sale, but I make it up in volume. I always look at that comment very with a lot of curiosity. And but here's the thing, nobody goes broke on positive cash flow. And so as you think about your business career and you make business decisions, always remember that cash flow is king. So that being said, I'm going to turn now to our book here, the Cash Flow Quadrants. By the way, just like the other one, signed by Robert Kiyosaki, 2001. So anyone who wants to take my book will have to fight me for it. So I'm going to start out on page 1, the introduction. Which quadrant are you in? Is it the right one for you? Are you financially free? The cash flow quadrant was written for you if your life has come to a financial fork in the road. If you want to take control of what you do today in order to change your financial destiny, it will help you chart your course. This is the cash flow quadrant. And I wish I had a graphic to show you. And for those of you who either are just listening along, the cash flow quadrants, and by the way, I see that Fernando put a link to the PDF book. Awesome. Thank you. That is awesome. Think of a box, a square box, and then divide that square in half vertically, in half horizontally, and now you have 4 more equal squares. Each one of those is the quadrant. In the top left, in fact, if you have note paper, draw that, what I just mentioned, draw that box, and then divide that box into 4. In the top left, you're going to write the letter E for Eric. No. The letter E for employee. Below that, still on the left side, you write the letter S for self-employed. Then cross over again now onto the right side of the box, and the top, put in the letter B. Now, B stands for business owner. And then the letter I is the last empty box. Put I for investor. The letters in each quadrant are very important, and to keep looking at that, visually, I think will help you throughout the book. And there's a very good reason, because one of the things I said, well, shouldn't you really actually put the S on the top right and then the B at the bottom? There's a reason. And as we read through the book, you're going to find out. So continue on to page 2. Each of us resides in at least one of the 4 quadrants of the cash flow quadrant. Where we are is determined by where our cash comes from. Many of us rely on paychecks and are therefore employees, the E quadrant, while others are self-employed. Employees and self-employed individuals reside on the left side of the cash flow quadrant. The right side of the cash flow quadrant is for individuals who receive their cash from businesses they own or investments they own. The cash flow quadrant is about the 4 different types of people who make up the world of business, who they are, and what makes individuals in each quadrant unique. It will help you to define where you are in the quadrant today and help you to chart a course for where you want to be in the future as you choose your own path to financial freedom. While financial freedom can be found in all 4 quadrants, the skills of a B or an I will help you reach your financial goals more quickly. A successful E should also become a successful I. What do you want to be when you grow up? This book is in many ways part 2 of my book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. For those of you who may not have read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, it was about the different lessons my 2 dads taught me about the subject of money and life choices. One was my real dad, and the other was my best friend's dad. One was highly educated and the other a high school dropout. One was poor and the other rich. Whenever I was asked the question, what do you want to be when you grow up? My highly educated but poor dad always recommended go to school, get good grades, and then find a safe, secure job. He was recommending a life's path that looked like this. And there's a diagram with the word school and an arrow into the E quadrant for employee. Poor dad's advice. Poor dad was recommending that I choose to become either a high-paid E employee or a high-paid S self-employed professional, such as a medical doctor, a lawyer, or an accountant. My poor dad was very concerned about a steady paycheck, benefits, and job security. That is why he was a high-paid government official, the head of education for the state of Florida, of Hawaii. My rich but uneducated dad, on the other hand, offered very different advice. He recommended go to school, graduate, build businesses, and become a successful investor. He was recommending a path that looked like this, and the same word school, but instead of going to the left side top, go to the right side top, business. This book is about the mental, emotional, and educational process I went through in following my rich dad's advice. Who this book is for? This book is written for people who are ready to change quadrants. This book is especially for individuals who are currently in the E and S categories and are contemplating becoming Bs or Is. It is for people who are ready to move beyond job security and begin to achieve financial security. Notice they're not the same thing. Job security and financial security are contrasted. It is the journey to financial freedom. It is not an easy life's path, but the prize at the end of the journey is worth the journey. It is a journey to financial freedom. Rich Dad told me a simple story when I was 12 years old that has guided me to great wealth and financial freedom. It was Rich Dad's way of explaining the difference between the left side of the cash flow quadrant and the E and S quadrant from the right side, the B and I quadrant. It goes like this. Once upon a time, there was a quaint little village. It was a great place to live, except for one problem. The village had no water unless it rained. To solve this problem once and for all, the village elders decide to put out a bid to bid the contract to have water delivered to the village on a daily basis. Two people volunteered to take the task, and the elders awarded the contract to both of them. They felt that a little competition would keep prices low and ensure a backup of supply water. The first of the two people who won the contract, Ed, immediately ran out, bought two galvanized steel buckets, and began running back and forth along the trail to the lake, which was a mile away. He immediately began making money as he labored morning to dusk, hauling water from the lake with his two buckets. He would empty them into a large concrete holding tank in the village that the village had built. Each morning, he had to get up before the rest of the village awoke to make sure that there was enough water for the village when it wanted. It was hard work, but he was very happy to be making money and having one of the two exclusive contracts for this business. The second winning contractor, Bill, disappeared for a while. He was not seen for months, which made Ed very happy since he had no competition. Ed was making all the money. Instead of buying two buckets to compete with Ed, Bill had written a business plan, created a corporation, found 4 investors, employed a president to do the work, and returned 6 months later with a construction crew. Within a year, his team had built a large volume stainless steel pipeline which connected the village to the lake. At the grand opening celebration, Bill announced that his water was cleaner than Ed's, Bill knew that there had been complaints about the dirt in Ed's water. Bill also announced that he would supply the village with water 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Ed could even deliver water on weekdays. He did not work. Ed could only deliver water on weekdays. He did not work on weekends. Then Bill announced that he would charge 75% less than Ed did for this higher quality, more reliable source of water. The village cheered and ran immediately for the faucet at the end of Bill's pipeline. In order to compete, Ed immediately lowered his rates by 75%, bought 2 more buckets, added covers to his buckets, and began hauling 4 buckets each trip. In order to provide better service, he hired his 2 sons to give him a hand for the night shift and on weekends. When his boys went off to college, he said to them, "Hurry back, because someday this business will belong to you." For some reason, after college, his 2 sons never returned. Eventually, Ed had employees and union problems. The union was demanding higher wages, better benefits, and wanted its members to only haul 1 bucket at a time. Does this sound familiar? Bill, on the other hand, realized that if this village needed water, then other villages must need water too. He rewrote his business plan and went off to sell his high-speed, high-volume, low-cost, and clean water delivery system to villages throughout the world. He only makes a penny per bucket of water delivered, but he delivers billions of buckets of water every day. Regardless if he works or not, billions of people consume billions of buckets of water, and all that money pours into his bank account. Bill had developed a pipeline to deliver money to himself as well as water to the villages. Bill lived happily ever after, and Ed worked hard for the rest of his life and had financial problems forever after. The end. And whether it's Microsoft, right? Whether it's Amazon, the whole water story is a great parable. So the story about Bill and Ed has guided me for years. It has assisted me in my life's decision-making process. I often ask myself, key, highlight, underline, and if you're using the PDF on the computer, write this down. Question number 1, am I building a pipeline or hauling buckets? Question number 2, underlined in my book, am I working hard or am I working smart? And the answer to these questions have made me financially free. And that is what this book is about. It is about what it takes to become a B and an I. It is for people who are tired of hauling buckets and are ready to build pipelines for cash to flow into their pockets, not out of their pockets. This book is divided into 3 parts. Part 1, the first part of this book is about core differences between people in the 4 quadrants. It is about why certain people gravitate to certain quadrants and often get stuck there without even realizing it. It will help you identify where you are today in the quadrant and where you want to be in 5 years. Part 2, the second part of this book is about personal change. It is more about who you have to be instead of what you have to do. Part 3, the third part of this book defines the 7 steps you can take on your path to the right side of the quadrant. I will share more of my Rich Dad secrets on the skills required to be a successful I and a successful B. It will help you choose your own path to financial freedom. Throughout the cash flow quadrant, I continue to stress the importance of financial intelligence. And he's big about financial literacy. And that's why I'm big about companies that teach financial literacy. If you want to operate on the right side of the quadrant, the B and the I side, a person needs to be smarter than if you choose to stay on the left side as an E or an S. To be a B or an I, you must be able to control the direction your cash flow is flowing. This book is written for people who are ready to make changes in their lives. And that's what I like about this book. I like about this group. It is written for people who are ready to move beyond job security and begin to build their own pipelines to achieve financial freedom. We are at the dawning of the information age, and this age will offer more opportunities than ever before for the financial reward. It will be individuals with the skills of the B's and the I's who will be able to identify and seize those opportunities. To be successful in the information age, a person will need information from all four quadrants. Unfortunately, our schools are still in the industrial age, and that's true, and still prepare students for only the left side of the quadrant. If you're looking for new answers to move forward in the information age, then this book is written for you. It is written to assist you in your journey into the information age. It does not have all the answers, but it will share the deep personal and guiding insights I gained as I traveled from the E and S side of the cash flow quadrant to the B and I. If you are ready to begin your journey or are already on your journey to financial freedom, this book is written for you. And then it goes on to say here, and by the way, later on, tell me if your PDF is an updated version. Remember, mine is from 2001. It's the original. But in my book here, it says, as my way of saying thank you for reading this book and increasing your knowledge about money and business, I make available to you a special audio report entitled, What My Rich Dad Taught Me About Investing. It is an educational tape, see, that offers further insights into what my rich dad taught me about investing. It is offered to further enhance your education and explain why we create the educational products for people like you. With a retail value of $19.95, we offer this tape as a gift to you. This tape does not discuss what I call middle-class investment strategies, especially those heavily dependent on mutual funds. In fact, you will find out why many rich people don't buy mutual funds. As with all of our products, we do our best to provide distinctions between how the rich, the poor, and the middle class think, and then leave the choice up to you as to which way you want to think. After all, one of the benefits of living in a free country is that we all have the choice to be rich, poor, or middle class. That decision is up to you. Regardless of which class you are in today, all you have to do is get this audio report is to visit our special website and check it out if anybody can, www.richdadbook2.com, and the report is yours for free. Put in the chat if that website still exists. I'm kind of curious. Anyway, I want to give a quick pause and an opportunity for anyone to share either one of your experiences that you had with Rich Dad, Poor Dad, or this book, and maybe why you think this is going to be an interesting book. Feel free to open your own mic. And Fernando, can they do that?
Eric, I'm actually giving them right now access to it. Yep, now they can.
My good buddy Jameson, good morning.
Good morning. Uh, I actually started listening to the updated version of Rich Dad Poor Dad again, and it was just like, wow, it just hit me again. It literally is like the foundation of getting your emotional intelligence, getting your financial intelligence. There's so many things about Rich Dad Poor Dad when he was teaching. I think if I'm correct, Rich Dad as a child of 9 years old, I believe, had to take over with his mother his convenience store. I think that's how Rich Dad came about with this financial knowledge. I think that was the pain or the struggle he had to go through to learn this stuff, and that's kind of where he started, I believe. But the story is amazing, and it's a way of teaching because Rich Dad was trying to teach Robert and Mike, his friend, when they were because they wanted to learn how to make money. So they literally made money. He said that's a good start, but that was the desire. Like, and then he showed him you almost had it. You had the secret sauce of making money, but you just didn't have the right strategy. Um, One of the things about backing up to the beginning is with Rich Dad is your life is your business. So treat your life like a business, and that's literally where this comes from, this cash flow quadrant, and from that first book, because your life is a business. And that story that you just read about the pipeline and the buckets, how does that mimic where we're at right now with AI? Everybody's worried about losing jobs. People aren't adapting to the situation, so everything's going automated. And they're, oh, my job's gonna, they're losing my jobs. People are getting let go at call centers, yada yada yada. It's like, well, what do you need to do? This is literally like a roadmap of what you need. It says right here on the front, Guide to Financial Freedom, right on the cover. And by the way, this is a 2011 edition that the new one is. And I think I still have my old one. I have to dig it out. And but he talks about in the cash flow excuse me, in the Rich Dad Poor Dad, that there's a second book. I need to look at what it was in the updated version, because the 2011 version of Rich Dad Poor Dad. So there's apparently an advanced book that goes up past it. But yeah, I love both books, and I learned a lot. And I'm still learning from the original cash flow, the Rich Dad Poor Dad book, because it's not about the information. It's about like the
The perspective.
emotional intelligence, because it's really the desire. And he talks about like the difference between a desire, you have to have desire, and then like the struggle makes that passion to learn. Because without that struggle and that passion to learn, it's just great information. Thank you.
It's true, and probably without any exception that I can think of, every time you hear a success story, it always when you dig deeper, it was because of a struggle. It was because of, a frustration, a turning point, a lack, a scarcity. One of those things trigger it, and then a person kind of goes out on a mission, and their mission is to do something different, to change where they are. And so some of us need to find what is that one thing that, man, this is holding me back, this is driving me nuts, this hurts, right? It hurts. It's like that story also of the this guy used to walk down the street, and every day he would walk by this house with an old man sitting on the porch with his dog, and his dog was always howling. You go by and go, oh, right. And then one day, guy stops and he goes like, "Why is your dog always howling?" And he goes, "Well, because he lays down on top of a nail." And and then the guy goes, "Well, why doesn't he move?" And he goes, "Well, it doesn't hurt enough." And that was the story there. And maybe you're laying on a nail right now, and it's just not hurting enough, but get up off the nail. So thanks, Jameson.
There's one more little thing I just remembered, and I was in listening to this again. You ever hear the advice, pay yourself first?
Of
And Rich
course.
Dad was giving the lesson to Robert in the the Rich Dad Poor Dad book, is that if I pay myself first, then the all like the tax people, the bill people, everything will actually give me pressure to pay my bills. But if I pay myself last, the self pressure is low. So I'm using the other financial system to give me pressure to take action and buy more assets, get after it. So he's using the pressure of the market to inspire him instead of him being from the inside. So he's using that pressure in a positive. It's almost like what is it called? Good debt instead of bad debt. He's using it to inspire him and push him instead of because otherwise it's just too easy to just sit down and relax. So that's another part. Back to the story about using some that struggle to inspire you. Thank you.
Right. Oh, thank you. Thank you. And I was just looking while you were talking that my Rich Dad book, the copyright is 1997. Okay. And it's not even necessarily the first publication. But think about this though, because a lot of times you go, oh man, that's interesting. That's new. It's not. It's not new stuff. This information, which in the Rich Dad Poor Dad, he was talking about, what the rich teach their kids about money, and that the poor and middle class do not. And it's not because they don't want the best for their kids. It's because they don't know or they don't get it. So great stuff. I mean, we're just starting to pick up a pace. I know that Fernando had his hand up first, and then we got Dr. Parker following him.
Eric, great read. My God, you brought me back to the story of Ed and Bill going back to having a job, working too many hours for too little money. And I read Rich Dad Poor Dad being my third book that I read when I started in the business world back in 1994, 95. And what's interesting is to see, we can compare notes right now, everybody that is here, and ask yourself these simple questions that the book asks. It brought me back to that idea of what I used to do and what I do now. Am I building a pipeline or am I hauling buckets? See, think about your daily activities in regards to what is it that you're doing. So when we ask this question, am I in the ed side of the story, which is, making money, just to create a check? Or are you disappearing for a little while to be able to create a plan? Because you have to do that in order for you to be able to build a team, to build a structure and infrastructure where eventually 5 years down the road, that will surpass any effort that you put out yourself. Well, maybe, it might not be noticeable at the beginning in the project that you're building that is creating a cash flow. So that brings me to where we are now. And I believe what we do with what we have with our plan of action with the company that we're in is pretty similar to what we're reading here. I mean, our company looks like it's got the cash flow quadrant B and the I side, where be patient, build your foundation, give it about 3 to 5 years. And believe me, once it takes off, it's going to take off and you'll surpass the income. So probably some of the friends that you have now that are having what we call a good job, and they'll say, what happened? What changed? What transformed? Because I've been a part of those two stories. And getting away from the first story, which was having a job, to having a business, I came back to my job 5 years after I became successful with my first company that I was with. And the friends that I had didn't even want to look at me when I went back to say hi. So why? Because it takes time to build something. So I love this story of Ed and Bill. So let's keep working on the Bill story. That's it. Thank you so much, Eric.
Great, thank you. And it's that question, and it's funny, we take notes on each other. I just wrote that down because I have, as antiquated as it may sound, I have a bunch of 3x5 cards that I read every day. And that's a great question to ask yourself at the beginning of the day: is what I'm doing today building a pipeline or hauling buckets? And in other words, am I working smart or am I just working hard? In any business, okay, including the one that you were just mentioning, Fernando, we can actually be in any of the four quadrants. But why have a business and then act like an employee, constantly doing the selling yourself, the delivery yourself, and everything, when the object of the game that we want is we want to go from the left side to the right side? And I'm not going to break down the details because it's going to be in the book, but that is a great question to ask yourself in the morning, and then ask yourself again at the end of your day: did I build a pipeline or did I just haul buckets? Great point. Thank you, Fernando. Dr. Parker, good morning.
Great morning, Eric. Good read, man. This is exciting stuff. I've always loved Robert Kiyosaki. This guy's got it figured out. But listen, as a young man, what he saw was two different lives, right? And I think he chose early which one he'd rather have. And the other dad, that life was far more persuasive than what he was actually living with his real father, his true father. And so we're up against the same thing, guys, as it relates to, what life you have now versus the life that you'd like to have. So I've even taken this in from, say, childhood to even adulthood. Now the choice is, do you want rich friends or poor friends? And so I've worked to surround myself with people that are far more successful than me, because that's the life that I want. So it's amazing what you learn and what he learned along the way from the rich dad versus the poor dad. The poor dad was a great guy, but he just didn't have the vision to want more, to see more, and understand that he had the ability to have more. So that the choice is relevant today, where we are in our life. So you want to be rich or you want to be poor? I choose rich.
It's a lot more comfortable. And and rich means different things to different people, right, Dr. Parker?
Yes, sir.
Being rich or poor isn't the difference between good or bad. The question is it fulfilled or unfulfilled? And so some people could be fulfilled earning $5,000 a month. Some people aren't fulfilled unless they're making more than $10,000 a month or $100,000 a month. The point is, and that I think one of the big golden nuggets that he dropped is that where you are is a result of the choices that you made. Okay. And up until now, you might have been making those choices subconsciously. Maybe somebody else was making those choices for you. But not only do we live in a free country where we have the freedom of thought and expression, but you also have the freedom to choose what your outcome or what your life design is all about. And that's what I think really drives hard, because all of these concepts, that story of Ed and Bill, is a lot like the story from The Richest Man in Babylon, another classic book. The lessons that we're learning, it's not so much, in fact, my black belt instructor used to say, it's not so much that I need to teach you new things. Sometimes I just need to remind you of the things that we already know. And therefore, pay attention to what you're doing and be on purpose. Any other comments before I dive into? That was just the introduction, my friends. This is going to be a great book. I'm real excited. And I also want to invite you, each one of you, to invite one person, because if you see the value in this, why wouldn't you bring a friend for a positive start next Saturday morning as we continue on? And it won't be too late, because I'm going to do one chapter and then we'll be out of time for today. We'll pick up the pace a little bit as we go along, but this foundational part was, I think, very important discussion. Anything else before I launch into chapter 1?
One more little thing, Eric. That was an amazing story about you and Robert Kiyosaki and him being on your show. And one day you'll have to teach us about what you taught him, or at least give us a broad 30,000 foot view of that, because that sounds very interesting. Because that is literally one of his premises, is that your house is not an asset. Like, wait a minute, it is? Tell me more.
Yeah, it can be. Yes. All right. So why don't you get a job? Chapter 1. Why don't you get a job? In 1985, my wife Kim and I were homeless. We were unemployed and had little money left from our savings. Our credit cards were exhausted, and we lived in an old brown Toyota with reclining seats that served as beds. At the end of 1 week, the harsh reality of who we were, what we were doing, and where we were headed began to sink in. Our homelessness lasted for another 2 weeks. A friend, when she realized our desperate financial situation, offered us a room in her basement. We lived there for 9 months. We kept our situation quiet. For the most part, my wife and I looked quite normal on the surface. Sound familiar? When friends and family were informed of our plight, the first question was always, "Why don't you get a job?" At first, we attempted to explain, but in most instances, we fail to clarify our reasons. To someone who values a job, it is difficult to explain why you might not want a job. Occasionally, we did a few odd jobs and earned a few dollars here and there, but we did that only to keep food in our stomachs and gas in the car. Those few extra dollars were only fuel to keep us going toward our singular goal. I must admit that during moments of deep personal doubt, the idea of a safe, secure job with a paycheck was appealing. But because job security was not what we were looking for, we kept pushing on, living day to day on the brink of the financial abyss. That year, 1985, was the worst of our lives, as well as one of the longest. Anyone who says that money isn't important obviously has not been without it for long. Kim and I fought and argued often. Fear, uncertainty, hunger shortens the human emotional fuse, and often we fight with the person who loves us the most. Yet love held the two of us together, and our bond as a couple grew stronger because of the adversity. We knew where we were going. We just did not know if we would ever get there. We knew we could always find a safe, secure, high-paying job. Both of us were college graduates with good job skills and solid work ethics, but we were not going for job security. We were going for financial freedom. In 1989, we were millionaires. Although financially successful in some people's eyes, we still had not reached our dreams. We had not yet achieved true financial freedom. That took until 1994. By then, we never had to work again for the rest of our lives. Barring any unforeseen financial disaster, we were both financially free. Kim was 37 and I was 47. It doesn't take money to make money. I started this book about being homeless and having nothing because I often hear people say it takes money to make money. I disagree. To get from homeless in 1985 to rich in 1989 and then to become financially free by 1994 did not take money. We had no money when we started and we were in debt. It also does not take a good formal education. I have a college degree, and I can honestly say that achieving financial freedom had nothing to do with what I learned in college. I did not find much call for my years of studying calculus, spherical trigonometry, chemistry, physics, French, and English literature. Many successful people have left school without receiving a college degree. People such as Thomas Edison, founder of General Electric, Henry Ford, founder of Ford Motor Company, Bill Gates, founder of Microsoft, and Ted Turner, founder of CNN, Michael Dell, founder of Dell Computers, Steve Jobs, founder of Apple Computer, and Ralph Lauren, founder of Polo and Ralph Lauren clothes. A college education is important for traditional professions, but not for how those people found great wealth. They developed their own successful businesses, and that was what Kim and I were striving for. So what does it take? I'm often asked, if it doesn't take money to make money and schools do not teach you how to become financially free, then what does it take? My answer, it takes a dream, a lot of determination, a willingness to learn quickly, and the ability to use your God-given assets properly and to know which sector of the cash flow quadrant to generate your income from. What is the cash flow quadrant? The diagram below is the cash flow quadrant, and I already outlined what that is. And we all discussed the E in top left for employee, the S right below it for self-employed, the B for business owner, and the I for investor. Which quadrant do you generate your income from? The cash flow quadrant represents different methods by which income or money is generated. For example, and I have this underlined from way back when, an employee earns money by holding a job and working for someone else or another company. Self-employed people earn working for themselves. A business owner owns a business that generates money, and investors earn money from their various investments. In other words, money generating more money. Different methods of income generation require different frames of mind, different technical skills, different educational paths, and different types of people. Different people are attracted to different quadrants. While money is all the same, the way it is earned can be vastly different. By the way, in my notes, I drew the quadrant again with the 4 areas, but next to it, I drew another 4 quadrants reminding about the 4 personality types. You see, you got to integrate the cash flow quadrants with the 4 personality types in order to really make things work. So while money is all the same, the way it is earned can be vastly different. If you begin to look at the 4 different labels for each quadrant, you might want to ask yourself, which quadrant do you generate the majority of your income from? Each quadrant is different. To generate income from different quadrants requires different skills and a different personality. Even if the person found in the cash flow quadrant is the same. Changing from quadrant to quadrant is like playing golf in the morning and then attending ballet at night. You can earn income in all 4 quadrants. Most of us have the potential to generate income from all 4 quadrants. Which quadrant you or I choose to earn our primary income from is not so much what we learned in school. It is more about who we are in the core of our core. Our core values, our strengths, weaknesses, and interests. It is these core differences that attract us to or repel us from the 4 quadrants. Yet regardless of what we do professionally, we can still work in all 4 quadrants. For example, a medical doctor can choose to earn income as an employee and join the staff of a large hospital, or work for the government in the public health service, or become a military doctor, or join the staff of an insurance company needing a doctor on its staff. The same doctor can also decide to earn income as an S, a self-employed person, and start a private practice, setting up an office, hiring staff, and building a private list of clients. Or the doctor could decide to become a B and own a clinic or laboratory and have other doctors on staff. This doctor probably would hire a business manager to run the organization. In this case, the doctor would own the business but not have to work in it. The doctor also could decide to own a business that has nothing to do with the medical field while still practicing medicine somewhere else. In this case, the doctor would be earning income both as an E and as a B. As an I, the doctor could also generate income from being an investor in someone else's business or in vehicles like the stock market, the bond market, and the real estate. The important words are generate income from. It is not so much that what we do, but more how we generate income. So let's talk about different methods of income generation. More than anything, it is the internal differences of our core values, strengths, weaknesses, and interests that affect which quadrant we decide to generate our income from. Some people love being employees, while others hate it. Some people love owning companies, but do not want to run them. Some people love owning companies and also love running them. Certain people love investing, while others only see the risk of losing money. Most of us are a little of each of these characters. Being successful in the 4 quadrants often means redirecting some internal core values. You can be rich or poor in all four quadrants. It is also important to note that you can be rich or poor in all four quadrants. There are people who earn millions and people who go bankrupt in each of the four quadrants. Being in one quadrant or the other does not necessarily guarantee financial success. Not all quadrants are equal. By knowing the different features of each quadrant, you'll have a better idea as to which quadrant or quadrants might be best for you. For example, one of the many reasons I chose to work predominantly in the B and I quadrants is because of the tax advantages. For most people working on the left side of the quadrant, there are few legal tax breaks available, yet legal tax breaks abound on the right side of the quadrant. By working to generate income in the B and I quadrants, I could acquire money faster and keep that money working for me longer without losing large chunks to pay taxes. Underline, star that. Different ways of earning money. When people ask why Kim and I were homeless, I tell them it was because that my rich dad taught me about money. For me, money is important, yet I did not want to spend my life working for it. That is why I did not want a job. If we were going to be responsible citizens, Kim and I wanted to have our money work for us rather than spend our lives physically working for money. That is why the cash flow quadrant is important. It distinguishes between the different ways in which money is generated. There are ways of being responsible and creating money other than physically working for it. Different fathers, different ideas about money. My highly educated dad had a strong belief that the love of money was evil, that to profit excessively meant you were greedy. He felt embarrassed when the newspapers published how much he made, because he felt he was too highly paid when compared with the school teachers that worked for him. He was a good, honest, hardworking man who did his best to defend his point of view that money was not important to his life. My highly educated, yet poor, dad consistently said, "I'm not that interested in money. I'll never be rich. I can't afford it. Investing is risky. Money isn't everything. Money supports life." My rich dad had a different point of view. He thought it foolish to spend your life working for money and to pretend that money was not important. Rich dad believed that life was more about money. He believed that life was more important than money, but money was important for supporting life. He often said, "You only have so many hours in a day, and you can only work so hard. So why work hard for money? Learn to have money work hard for you, and you can be free to do the things that are important." To my rich dad, what was important was 1, having lots of time to raise kids. 2, having money to donate to charities and projects he supported. 3, bringing jobs and financial stability to the community. 4, having time and money to take care of his health. 5, being able to travel the world with his family. "Those things take money," said Rich Dad. "That is why money is important to me. Money is important, but I do not want to spend my life working for it." Choosing the quadrants. One reason my wife and I focused on the B and the I quadrants while we were homeless was because I had more training and education in those quadrants. It was because of my rich dad's guidance that I knew the different financial and professional advantages of each quadrant. For me, the quadrants on the right side, the B and I quadrants, offered the best opportunity for financial success and financial freedom. Also, at 37 years old, I had experienced successes and failures in all four quadrants, which allowed me to some degree of understanding about my own personal temperament, likes, dislikes, strengths, and weaknesses. I knew which quadrants I did best in. Parents are like teachers. It was my rich dad who often referred to the cash flow quadrant when I was a young boy. He would explain to me the difference between someone who is successful on the left side versus the right side. Yet being young, I really did not pay much attention to what he said. I did not understand the differences between the employee's mindset and the business owner's mindset. I was just trying to survive in school. Yet I did hear his words, and soon his words began to make sense. Having two dynamic and successful father figures around me gave meaning to what each was saying, but it was what they were doing that allowed me to begin to notice the differences between the ES side of the quadrant and the BI side. At first, the differences were subtle, and then they became glaring. For example, one painful lesson I experienced as a young boy was simply how much time one dad had available to spend with me versus the other. As success and prominence of both dads grew, it was obvious that one dad had less and less time to spend with his wife and 4 children. My real dad was always on the road at meetings or dashing off to the airport for more meetings. The more successful he got, the fewer dinners we had together as a family. Weekends he spent at home in his crowded little office buried under paperwork. My rich dad, on the other hand, had more time and more free time as his success grew. One of the reasons I learned so much about money, finance, business, and life was simply because my rich dad had more and more free time for his children and me. Another example is that both dads made more and more money as they became successful, but my real dad, the educated one, also got further into debt. So he'd work harder and suddenly find himself on a higher income tax bracket. His banker and accountant would then tell him to buy a bigger house for the so-called tax break. My dad would follow the advice and buy a bigger house, and soon he was working harder than ever so he could make more money to pay for the new house, taking him even further away from his family. My rich dad was different. He made more and more money, but paid less in taxes. He too had bankers and accountants, but he was not getting the same advice my highly educated dad was getting. The main reason. Yet the driving force that would not allow me to stay on the left side of the quadrant was what happened to my highly educated but poor dad at the peak of his career. In the early 1970s, I was already out of college and in Pensacola, Florida, going through pilot training for the Marine Corps on my way to Vietnam. My educated dad was now the superintendent of education for the state of Hawaii and a member of the governor's staff. One evening, my dad phoned me in my house, in my room on the base. Son, he said, I'm going to resign from the job and run for lieutenant governor of the state of Hawaii for the Republican Party. I gulped and then said, You're going to run for office against your boss? That's right, he replied. Why, I asked. Republicans do not have a chance in Hawaii. The Democratic Party and the labor unions are too strong. I know, son. I also know that we do not have a prayer of winning Judge Samuel King. That we do not have a prayer. Judge Samuel King will be the candidate for governor, and I will be his running mate. Why? I asked again. Why run against your boss if you know you're going to lose? Because my conscience won't let me do anything else. The games these politicians are playing disturb me. Are you saying they're corrupt? I asked. I don't want to say that, said my dad. He was an honest and moral man who rarely spoke badly about anyone. He was always a diplomat, yet I could tell from his voice that he was angry and upset when he said, I'll just say that my conscience bothers me when I see what goes on behind the scenes. I could not live with myself if I turned a blind eye and did nothing. My job and paycheck are not as important as my conscience. After a long silence, I realized that my dad's mind was made up. Good luck, I said quietly. I'm proud of you for your courage, and I'm proud to be your son. My dad and the Republican Party were crushed, as expected. The re-elected governor sent word out that my dad was never to get a job again with the government for the state of Hawaii. and he never did. At the age of 54, my dad went looking for a job, and I was on my way to Vietnam. At middle age, my dad was looking for a new job. He went from jobs with big titles and low pay to more jobs with big titles and low pay. Jobs where he was the executive director of XYZ Services, a nonprofit organization, or managing director of ABC Services, another nonprofit. He was a tall, brilliant, and dynamic man who was no longer welcome in the only world he knew, the world of government employees. He tried starting several small businesses. He was a consultant for a while and even bought a famous franchise, but they all failed. As he grew older and his strength slipped away, so did his drive to start over again. His lack of will became even more pronounced after each business failure. He was a successful E trying to survive as an S, a quadrant in which he had no training or experience and for which he had no heart. He believed the world of public education. He loved the world of public education, but he could not find a way to get back in. The ban on his employment in the state government was silently in place. In some circles, the word is called blacklisted. If not for Social Security and Medicare, the last years of his life would have been a complete disaster. He died frustrated and a little angry, yet he died with a clear conscience. So what kept me going in the darkest of hours? It was the haunting memory of my educated dad sitting at home, waiting for the phone to ring, trying to succeed in the world of business, a world he knew nothing about. That and the joyous memory of seeing my rich dad grow happier and more successful as his years went on inspired me. Instead of declining at age 54, Rich Dad blossomed. He had become rich years before that, but now he was becoming mega rich. He was constantly in the newspapers as a man who was buying up Waikiki and Maui. His years of methodically building businesses and investing was paying off, and he was on his way to becoming one of the richest men in the islands. Small differences become large differences. Because my rich dad had explained the quadrant to me, I was better able to see the small differences that grew into large differences when measured over the years a person spends working. Because of the quadrant, I knew it was better to decide not so much what I wanted to do, but more who I wanted to become as my working years progressed. In the darkest hours, it was this deep knowledge and lessons from two powerful dads that kept me going. It is more than the quadrant. The cash flow quadrant is more than 2 lines and some letters. And we're coming in for the final landing here. If you look below the surface of this simple diagram, you will find completely different worlds as well as different ways of looking at the world. As a person who has looked at the world from both left side of the quadrant and the right side of the quadrant, I can honestly say the world looks much different depending on which side you are on. And those differences are what this book is about. One quadrant is not better than the other. Each has strengths and each has weaknesses. This book is written to allow you to glimpse at the different quadrants and into the personal development required to be financially successful in each of them. It is my hope that you will gain further insights into choosing the financial life path that is best suited for you. Many of the skills essential to be successful on the right side of the quadrant are not taught in school, which might explain why people like Bill Gates of Microsoft and Ted Turner of CNN and Thomas Edison left school early. This book will identify the skills as well as the personal core temperament that are necessary to find success in the B and the I side of the quadrant. First, I offer a broad overview of the 4 quadrants and then a closer look on the B and I side. There are already plenty of books written about what it takes to be successful on the E side and the I side and the S side. After reading this book, some of you might want to make a change. in how you earn your income. And some of you will be happy to say just where you are, to stay just where you are. You might choose to operate in more than one quadrant, and maybe in all four quadrants. We're all different, and one quadrant is not more important or better than the other. In every village, town, city, and nation in the world, there is a need for people operating in all four quadrants to ensure the financial stability of the community. Also, as we grow older and gain different experiences, our interests change. For example, I noticed that many young people right out of school are often happy to get a job. Yet after a couple of years, a few of them decide they're not interested in climbing the corporate ladder, or they lose interest in the field of business that they're in. These changes of age and experience often cause a person to search for new avenues of growth, challenge, and financial reward and personal happiness. I hope this book offers some fresh ideas for attaining those goals. In short, this book is not about homelessness, but about finding a home in a quadrant or quadrants. So I know that I went over, and I hope you guys enjoyed that first chapter, laying the foundation for the cash flow quadrants. I'm going to open up the mic for some quick comments. Otherwise, I'm going to pass the baton over to Fernando Ramirez, who will take us on the next phase. But any comments?
I think this book reading is going to cause me to reevaluate my goals and also get a different perspective on life in general surrounding money.
I agree, and that's the power of this book. And Ron, is this the first time you've read this book?
No, I read it back in the 80s also when it first came out.
So there you go. A lot of times, when we see a movie a second time, we get different things out of it, number one. And it's not that the movie necessarily changed, it's that we have, right?
Right.
Where we are, our perspective, and more importantly, where we want to go. So thank you, Ron. I mean, welcome on the journey. It's good to be on it with you.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. I'm glad to be here. And I think the book Fernando gave is 2012 is what I think the copyright on it is.
Jameson is asking, what are the colors? And I have to pull the book out if I have it nearby. The book is the four color personalities that we read. Robert Kiyosaki does not assign colors, but if you remember, people have, that whether they're the green, which is, very, very analytical, whether it's the yellow, which are, the touchy-feely people, the red driver people, and the blue, which are the, more expressive people. That also was a great lesson when we read that book. And what I'm seeing, and I think this is at a little bit deeper level, is look at these quadrants, and some of the colors probably tend to drift more into one of the quadrants, but you can be a red in any quadrant, you can be a yellow in any quadrant, and most of us are a combination of colors. As he expressed it, we could be a combination of quadrants as well. But ultimately, like what Ron was saying, I think this is going to change where I want to go. And having these constructs to be able to create more of a framework of how to do this, I think that's the value and what we get out of reading the book, for the second or third or fourth time. It's part of the growth journey. So excellent point. Yeah, Ron.
One other thing is, as I was looking at the different quadrants, I realized that Make Wealth Real, MWR, actually allows you to function in every one of the quadrants, including investing in real estate and precious metals, all the way to the investing side.
Yeah, and one of my good friends, who's also a business consultant, she's always saying the object of the game, and this is her perspective, the object of the game is to have a B to fund your I. And ultimately, here's probably the big difference. And spoiler alert, if mute me for a second if you don't want to hear. One of the big differences that we're going to learn is on the left side of the quadrant. And before, remember when I said I wanted to move them around, but then I realized that on the left side of the quadrant, you are trading hours for dollars. Okay. An employee, of course, we know whether it's a salary or dollars per hour, an employee is always trading his or her time for dollars. The S is really an E on steroids. The lawyer who's an employee from a large corporation is trading hours for dollars, but a lawyer that goes out on his own might make more dollars per hour, but unless he's lawyering, he's not making money. A doctor who has his own practice, unless he's doctoring, right, treating, he's trading hours for dollars, maybe at a lot higher rate than as an employee, but he still hasn't divorced. Now, when you cross over to the right side, a business, if it's really a business, is a business that you can walk away. Fernando talked about before when they had the Los Angeles fires. He had to step away from the business, practically survival. But some people, it's vacation, it's sabbatical, it's taking care of a elderly, ill person that can walk away from their business for a little bit, come back, and the business is not only still there, because in a self-employed on the left side of the quadrant, if you walk away for 6 months, you're starting over. If on the right side, if you walk away from a business, like the doctor that owned a business, had a business manager, he went away for 6 months on missionary work, and then he comes back and his practice is still there, sometimes even bigger. Fernando had the exact same experience with MWR, where he had to step away, came back, and everything was fine. And we hear these stories all the time. And so the object of the game, according to my friend, she says, you got to have a B to fund your I, because ultimately, financial freedom happens when you no longer are trading hours for dollars. So financial freedom lives mostly on the side. There's always exceptions, but it lives on the right side. Monifa, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I'm here, but I'm in and out. I'm working. This was exciting and a great read from what I could hear with the truck making so much noise. The cash flow quadrant is always insightful and making us to understand how to think when it comes to money, not just letting it go out, but how to make it come back to us. And I don't know if I heard someone say by default, us being in MWR, we fall right in line with this. I think this business was purposely made in with a foundation that purposely guides us through this quadrant. And I thank you guys so much. This is an exciting time to be with this company. We are getting bigger and bigger each day, better and better each moment. And I'm just excited to be here with you guys and learning with you guys and growing with you guys. Thank you so much for having me share.
Thank you, Monifa. Well said.
Welcome.
Anyone else? Otherwise, the baton will be officially passed and the torch passed to Fernando.
Eric, thank you so much for this morning's reading. We normally take a half-hour break, but man, this reading felt so short. It was entertaining, educational, your style of presenting the information, how you opened it up and how you wrapped it up, man. I give you kudos. That phenomenal job. I didn't feel the time, honest truth. I was so engaged.
I looked and I realized I was over, and I says, I'm so close to the end of the chapter. I'm gonna complete the mission. But yeah, time really did fly this morning.
Oh yeah, it was fun. Thank you so much, Eric. We're gonna have our presenter of today. As a matter of fact, is Dr. G.W. Parker. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's give fire emojis to Mr. Eric Wilner. He did a phenomenal job. I mean, I was taking notes like, wow, like a kid in school, front row, wanted to raise my hand all the time, asking all the questions, but Eric Wilner did a phenomenal job. So without further ado, I'd like to bring up our presenter of today, someone that besides, I highly respect Eric, I highly respect this other gentleman. He's our mentor, our leader, someone with so much energy, 10 feet tall, bulletproof, strong as thunder, Dr. G.W. Parker. The mic is yours.
Can we record this session, please?
Yes, of
No,
course.
Ramir.
You got the co-host, Ron, but
Okay.
let's record it.
Well, ladies
Go
and
right
gentlemen,
ahead.
thank you so much for joining us this morning. I'm excited to be here. Fernando, thank you for the introduction. Eric, great read. Robert Kiyosaki, guys, this is hot stuff. I'm telling you, man. It helps us shape our thinking and gives us some direction as to where we want to go and what we want to do. But it all ties in, as Monifa has said, it all ties in with what we're doing as it relates to MWR. And you're going to get an opportunity to see it and hear it this morning. What we're all so excited about and why these readings are so important, because I'm convinced, Fernando, that a great deal of this is mental and the perception that you have that you develop in your mind, and you've got to keep that going. You got to surround yourself with people like we see here today. These are all like-minded individuals. So we're winning and we're going to continue to win. So let's get started. I'm going to go and pull up the PowerPoint, sir. Let me share my screen and we're going to get into it, guys. Promising not to be before you long, but to provide you with some impactful information. And that information consists of what I consider to be the greatest opportunity that exists on the planet. And that's MWR, guys. We're excited about what we bring to the table and what this opportunity presents. So give me a second here. Let's see if we can go to full screen and get this thing started for you.
There you go.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, here we are. Once again, we're talking MWR, the greatest opportunity that exists on the planet. This is where lifestyle and legacy connect. This is our presentation this morning. Great reading club. So let's get into it and talk about how we have now the ability to live the lifestyle that we want and build the legacy for our family that they deserve. Because if not us, then who will do it for them? It doesn't happen. But listen, we've got some issues that we deal with along the way as we pursue this lifestyle, this current lifestyle, and also our future lifestyle. Why do we do it? Why do we work the way we do? We want to leave a legacy for our children. We don't want this work to be in vain. So there's some challenges that we face, and these are the things that we must find a way to answer. One, how do we make more money? Everybody wants to know that. Secondly, how do we keep more of the money that we do make? And then how do we make our money work for us? This is the one that if we figure this one out, we've got it all figured out, because this is what wealthy people have been able to figure out. How do we make money work for us? You've got to find a job for your money. You heard Eric talk about it in the reading, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki's whole concept of having money work for him. And that's why he wasn't interested in having a job, because he was going to be forced to work until he died. And unfortunately, that's where many of us are. Look at the results as it relates to the average American. We're putting in 50 plus years of work, guys, the most productive years of our life, but given to building someone else's dream. And we have the ability to build it ourselves. So what are we doing? We're financing a lifestyle instead of leaving one for our families. And this has to change, but we have the ability to do it with the MWR. Now, why is it so important when we talk about MWR? Let's talk about the difference in this opportunity versus any other that exists. We guarantee your success. There's no other company in this space, in this industry, that does that offers you a 100% money back guarantee. Look at what they say. If our expert strategist opportunity can't put more money back into your pocket than the cost of the membership in the first 30 days, MWR gives you a full refund, guys. See, there's no risk to you. And the only way that you lose with this opportunity is by choosing not to participate. Now, we strongly encourage you to participate in your own rescue. Upload the document, schedule the appointment, give these experts the opportunity to help you take your life from wherever it is now to wherever it is you desire it to be. It can happen. So how do we do it? We have a simple membership that we've created that's going to give you everything that you need to succeed. Look at what our experts are going to help you do. One, they're going to help you keep more of the money that you make. We talked about that, right? We needed to figure out that answer. Here's the answer to the other one. How do we make our money work for us? We're going to give you the platform to assist you in doing that. And then once we do all this, we're going to help you protect the income and assets that we help you create, because we're going to help you grow, guys. We're in the business of doing that. You're going to have experts doing the work for you, and you're going to get the results. This is a powerful tool, guys, that many people don't have access to, but they can if you tell the story. Let's talk about our strategies. How do we do all of this? Help you put more money back into your pocket, put your money to work for you. First of all,
We show you how to get the money back from the big three that is taking it from you every single day. Every time you generate income, who else is in your pocket? The government, banks, and big business. We want to get those guys out of our pocket. Well, how do we go about doing that? First of all, we help you eliminate debt. Now, we know that we can't even begin to imagine accumulating real wealth as long as we're strapped with debt. So we've got to eliminate that first. Then we're going to help you save money on taxes by reducing your taxes. I mean, that's a powerful tool. Many of you, when you look at that paycheck stub and you look at the taxes that were taken out, what would your life be like if that money was still in that check on payday Friday? It would make a huge difference, no question about it. Then we want to help you lower your bills on your everyday expenses, cell phone, internet, cable, satellite, all of those things, and also your healthcare costs, which has become outrageously expensive for many of us. But at the same time, we're going to help you restore and increase your credit score. And think about this, the ability to turn your rent into home ownership. Whatever your rent payment is right now, imagine that money each month going toward home ownership versus you giving it to somebody else, and you never get a chance to build any equity or own anything. But we change all of that. Now, on top of all of this, we give you $150 a month toward reward dollars, is what we call them. You use this money on your everyday purchases, dining, shopping, whatever it might be. Put that money once again back into your pocket. Guys, all the tools and systems that we've ever need are in place. Look at what we're averaging as it relates to the tens of thousands of people that have already accessed this platform. We're putting an average of $2,000 a month back into the average person's pocket. Now, I don't care where you are in your financial life. Add $2,000 a month back into your pocket from your existing finances and tell me then if you're winning. And I would say you would be, no question about it. But now that we put that money back into your pocket, what do? Many would suggest we go shopping. I think not. Now would be the time to find the job for that money and put it to work for you. See, our experts are going to help you multiply and protect your money and your assets. And how do we do it? This is how we do it with our self-banking strategies, as well as our tax and risk-free saving strategies, asset accumulation, as well as tax elimination strategies through our trust, and also income and asset protection. Guys, these are the pillars of the wealthy. This is how you live and leave a legacy. Look at these pillars. This is what wealthy people have always had access to. This is what they do. This is how the rich get rich and stay rich, guys. Now the game plan has been given to us. The playing field has been made even. They pull back the curtain on all the secrets that wealthy people have always had access to. We have them now. So what are we going to do with them? We're going to put them to work in our lives so that we can live the life of our dreams, not just for ourselves, but our families as well. Think about it. Everything you need to secure your lifestyle and your legacy in one membership. $149.97. Why is this number so important? One, because that's about the price of a cup of coffee a day, which is going to give you access to the same tools and systems and experts that wealthy people have always had. And let's not talk about the cost of a good CPA or financial planner in any city in America right now, averaging about $200 to $300 an hour. Now, who amongst us has an additional $200 to $300 an hour that they can pay to an expert to assist them in learning this money game? Yes, game. Because that's what it is, guys. And we're losing because we don't understand the rules of this game. But we have experts now that can assist us in getting that done. MWR has leveled the playing field, guys. Think about this. No contract to sign with that 149. No setup fees. And this even includes a spouse, meaning two people have the ability to take advantage of the membership at one price. Now, the experts are going to do all the work. There's no real, well, there is work for you to do. You've got to actually participate in the rescue, upload the documents, schedule the appointments, give these guys everything they need as they hold their hand to get you to the next level. Did I mention that there's a 30-day money-back guarantee? So there's zero risk here, no loss to you at all. That's why we believe that Make Wealth Real is the perfect business. I'll ask you this question. Where else can you get paid daily? Every single day. I'll show you what it looks like. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 7 days a week, while someone else does the work for you and for everyone that you refer. There's only one way to do it, guys. Become a lifestyle and legacy coach, meaning you're partnering with MWR. What is your upfront cost? $100. That's your business setup fee. And then you're going to commit to $149.97 a month. That's your membership fee. That's your business expense. Let's call it that. So the total investment to get in the game, to be a part of this successful team, is $249.97. $249.97. One, put you in business with the fastest growing financial strategies company in the country. That's MWR. Two, it puts you in the middle of a multi-trillion-dollar a year industry, financial services, guys. That is the game that we're in now. And we have the ability to win without having to become the experts. I don't know anything about taxes. I don't know anything about credit restoration, investment consulting, real estate investing, none of those things. I don't need to be licensed in any of those areas because the experts are already in place. But look at what else you get as an investor with MWR. One, you get your own team of experts to help you keep, grow, and protect your money and your assets. Not only that, you get leverage. You saw it here today with the Reading Club. Expert strategies, leaders, and systems to help you grow your MWR business. Now, you hear us say this all the time. You're in business for yourself, but not by yourself. And we proved that again this morning on the Reading Club. Now, let's talk about what motivates many of us and what brings us here. The ability to earn unlimited daily pay, and industry-leading residual income. Let's look at this thing and see what's on the table. What's available to you and me as a business partner through the MWR revenue sharing plan? One, unlike any other company in this industry, you can get paid every single day. I told you, 7 days a week. From $5 a day to as much as $15,000 a day, and anywhere in between, you pick your number. I call this my fixed income chart. Why do I call it that? Because I can fix my income to be whatever it is I desire it to be. I just need a few like-minded people that see what I see to join me on this mission, and we go after this. But we're just getting started as it relates to the income potential. You can get paid every single week through our lifestyle bonuses. How do we do it? 6 people join your organization within 1 week. You pick up an additional $300 the following Monday. Now, you don't have to sponsor these 6 people yourself. They can be sponsored by someone on your team, people that you'll never know, that you'll never probably even meet. Not only that, the legacy bonus is on table now because you're growing your business now. You have the ability, because of that team growth, to earn from $30 to as much as $150 for everybody that joins your organization. And let's just suppose, for example, you are at a 3-star executive director. That's 36 people on your team. Now you're making $30 additional for everybody that comes into your organization. So what happens when 100 people join your organization? 30, 30, 30, 30, 30. There's no end to it, guys. And this is only the beginning, but we're just getting started because MWR wants to reward you for getting off to a fast start. We give you what we call the opportunity to secure momentum bonuses. What does it take? 3 people, 3 business partners that join your business in your first 30 days, you pick up an additional $150. But you help those 3 do the exact same thing, you pick up an additional $400. Let's duplicate this process one more time and help those 3 get their 3, go from 12 to 36. Now you pick up an additional $900. Now here's the amazing part about the momentum bonus. MWR gives us 90 days to complete this cycle to get all of the money that's on the table. $1,500, by the way. But there's nothing written in this revenue sharing plan saying that you've got to take 90 days. Many people are doing this in 5 days. They'll do it in 10 days, 20 days, 30 days. I say hit the ground running and take advantage of everything MWR has to offer. Listen, with as few as 12 people on your team, you're now generating $20 a day, $600 a month. Guys, that's a pretty good start. That's somebody's car payment. But let's get excited about this and share this concept with others. Now we're talking 90 people on your team as a 4-star director. You're making $100 a day, $3,000 a month. But it gets even more excited. Hit the rank of 2-star regional director. How many people on your team is required to do that? 480 people. Let's say it takes you a year to do it. When the dust settles, look at where you are. $300 a day, $9,000 a month, well over $109,000 a year. But we're just getting started. Now, for the big thinkers, let's think about vice president or director position. 6,000 people on your team. Honestly, I wouldn't care if it took you 10 years to do it. And I'm 8 years in. If it took you 10 years to do it, it doesn't matter. You've got 6,000 people on your team. You're at $3,000 a day, $90,000 a month, well over $1 million a year. Now, you know your hopes, your dreams, your aspirations, the vision that God has given you, the assignment. You know that better than I do. Would $1 million a year help you get those things done? And I'm convinced the only reason we're not already doing what we've been called to do is because we don't have the financial means to do it. So, I mean, take the approach that I take with this MWR concept. Use this as a vehicle to generate the level of income that you need to get on with the work that God has called you to do. You need the money. So we're going to use this as a vehicle to get that money. Guys, again, everybody's winning at MWR, and we have the opportunity to help so many other people do it. Let's break this down a little further. Let's go to our income simulator, right? To give you an opportunity to understand better how this thing works as it relates to the ability to generate income. And this is not difficult work. We've kind of broke this thing down. We're going at a horse and buggy's pace to show you how simple it can be. Go out and sponsor 12 people. I don't care if you did it one person per month and it took you 12 months to do it, and then enroll one outside customer. And let's say those people that you sponsored only did half of what you did on the first level with those 12 people and that one outside customer, and you've got 13 members on your team. You're now making $600 a month as a 2-star executive director. But let's go to level 2. 12 turns into 72. 72 turns into 157 total members. You're at a 4-star position now, executive director, making $3,000 a month and passive residual income, whether you get out of bed or not. But let's speed this thing up. That 72 on your third level turns into 216. 216 turns into 589 total members. You've got now a 2-star executive director position, making $9,000 a month in passive residual income. You only need 480 team members to make this happen. We're at 589 total through this process right here. Guys, again, it can be done. There are many people that are already ringing the bell with MWR, and you can do the absolute same thing. But this is a 6-figure passive income. Again, whether you get out of bed or not, this is pretty impressive as to how we help you get it done. Now, think about this. Our member results speak for themselves. MWR already has $1 million residual club ring earners, as well as thousands more who are doing this very thing, getting paid every single day, saving more money. They're earning interest instead of paying it. You know the difference there. They're buying and building their dream homes. Not only that, they're driving the cars of their dreams. They're living the lifestyle of their dreams, and they're leaving legacies for their family. We have the ability to do it. Guys, once again, as I said earlier, everybody is winning here at MWR. The only one is missing is you. So I say this, if not MWR, then what? And if not now, then when? It is now time for us to finish what we started. So let's make some decisions here. We've got some choices. Either you want some of this money, focusing on the membership for only $149.97, or you're like me, you want all the money. I wanted the membership in order to get my financial life in order, but I also wanted the ability to create another stream of income. So 8 years ago, nearly 8 years ago, when I saw this, I took it very seriously. I surrounded myself with the experts. I got results. They saved me $350 a month in taxes, enhanced my credit score by 128 points, put me in a position with an investment vehicle that was paying me 10 times more than my 401k. And I started sharing this story, and these guys are willing to pay me a ridiculous amount of money to do it within 2 years because I'm a business owner now. I began generating enough income from this very platform to walk away from a $65,000 a year job to do this full time. Guys, you can't tell me you can't win here, because you can. And what we bring to the table is what 98% of the people in this country need. The issue is finances. People are sick and tired of being sick and tired, struggling, living paycheck to paycheck, much like I was doing, paid on Friday, broke on Monday, working just to pay bills, and destined to die broke. That's over. We're done with that. Enough is enough. We have the ability to change it because we bring to the table the difference, the opportunity that guarantees your success. I'll say it again. If our opportunity and strategy or expert strategist opportunity cannot put more money back into your pocket than the cost of the membership within the first 30 days, MWR gives you a full refund. We've eliminated the risk. There's no risk to you. The only way that you lose is you simply by choosing not to participate. And we're prayerful that you will participate in your own rescue. Now, if you've seen enough and heard enough today to make a decision to join us on this mission, this ministry, this crusade, this movement, let me be the first to welcome you to the MWR family. I strongly encourage you to get back with the marketing director that referred you and let them know whether you want some of this money or whether you want all of this money. As the slide says here, this is our moment. And we say get started now. Don't wait. This is, again, where lifestyle and legacy connect. So once again, you've just heard what I consider to be the greatest opportunity that exists on planet Earth, and that is MWR, guys. And I promised I wouldn't be before you long, but wanted to provide you with some impactful information. And you've just seen what we're so excited about. You've just heard what we're so excited about. Once again, this is where lifestyle and legacy connect. And we're going to leave you with this final slide. And this is going to give you, I think this slide kind of provokes thought. Think about it now and look at what the caption says. Will your great-grandchildren remember you? Do you remember your great-great-grandparents? And if you don't, there's a reason why. Will they remember you? Will you do enough work now to put them in a position where they can live also the lifestyle of their dreams? Will you give them what they need to get started to have a successful life or not? I say let's do this, and we've got a vehicle to make it happen. Well, Mr. Ramirez, that concludes our presentation. I was in and out. We're going to go stop the screen share and come back out to the field. We may have some guests today that have questions. We don't want you to leave this platform today without having a full understanding of what you've seen and heard. If there are questions, now will be the time, guys. None? No questions? Okay.
No questions, Dr. G.W. Parker. You provided, enough information for people to make a wise decision. Now there is a comment, short and sweet. Yep, from Deborah. Thank you, Dr. G.W. Parker. Amazing job as always. I'm ready to sign up all over again.
My pleasure, Deborah, and thank you, Fernando. Hey, guys, and the whole concept here on our Saturday mornings is basically to get you off to a good start with our morning reading, right? To fuel your mind with some positive thoughts, right? And interactions with some positive people. And then show you the vehicle that we're using to create wealth, right? That's MWR. Now we transition to the next session. We're going to train you on how to grow your business. And we bring to the table a seasoned expert, I call him, a gentleman that brings 30 plus years of experience in this industry, who has not made hundreds of thousands of dollars, but millions of dollars in this industry, and understands how these systems work, and puts together an incredible training for us every Saturday morning. And that level of commitment is like nothing I've ever seen. So once you join this team, I mean, you join a group of like-minded individuals that want to win. And